couple of days ago, the wind was blowing all around and the skies were darkening, telling me that a storm was about to begin. And just at that moment, there was a knock on my front door. Now, I know that this sounds like the beginning of a mystery novel, but stay with me. There was a knock on the door, and when I peeked out, there was my next-door neighbor, Nancy Gatman, not Drew. Nancy Gatman. Now, Nancy said that she had been sitting on her upper deck when she noticed that one of the back gates in my yard was swinging back and forth in the wind. And she came to let me know it so I could secure the gates in case I decided to let the corgis out and let them run free. Nancy didn't want them running in the streets because anything might and could happen. She's right. The latches on my gate do not always shut properly. More than once, I have let the dogs run out in the backyard while I've stayed inside doing something terribly important, like watching TV. And then I've noticed it was quiet. It was too quiet. And I couldn't hear the dogs anymore, and that's when my heart jumps. And I'll look out, and that gate is swinging open, and there is no sign of Repa Cheap or Kelsey. So I start looking for them. I'm calling their names. I'm using the command for them to return to me, as if. Here, 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 here. And then I use that ultimate bribe, Cookie, Cookie. And Repa Cheap, who's the younger of the two, usually comes running when he hears his name, but Kelsey is the older of the two, and she's beginning to lose her hearing a bit. She's the one I worry about. How will she know to come back to me? How will she know that there's a treat waiting for her? Now, so far, every misadventure has had a happy ending. Neither corgi knew that they were in any kind of danger. Corgis don't. And every time they come back home, I am hugging and loving on them like there is no tomorrow. And of course, they do get a treat. And so do I. Usually an adult beverage, depending on the time of day. Now, my dogs teach me a lot about the Gospels on any occasion, but today they've really taught me something. Because some of the best love stories from Scripture have to do with being lost and found. And we have two of them in today's Gospel. And I wonder where you place yourself in the story. Have you seen yourself as the one who was lost, needing to be found? Or do you see yourself on the sidelines, telling the searchers just where they should be looking, where they should go? Take that any way you want it. Or maybe just telling them just who it is they should be looking for. Now, I have seen myself as both, but it was not until I reflected on the misadventures of Kelsey and Reap that I saw myself as the one who does the searching. And that's where I ask you to place yourself in the story as the searcher. Now, in this story, it's a search that has a happy ending. Now, the search does not have to be dramatic unless it is the drama of most mornings. You are running late and you cannot find your keys. They aren't on the table where you usually place them. You check your pockets, you empty out your purse, still no keys. And then you find them, hiding under a pile of papers you put down the night before without thinking. And when you find the keys, are you happy? Or are you at least relieved? Or do you grab the keys and shout, "You bad keys, bad keys, where have you been? Bad, bad keys." Sorry, I'm getting back into my dog mode. Or do you say something like, "Oh, thank God, I found them." And then you jump in your car and get on with your morning. Keys have no feelings about being lost. And neither, to the best of my knowledge, do the coin and the sheep in the parable Jesus tells us. Does the coin know that it's lost? It's an inanimate object, for Pete's sake. And yet its finding is enough for the woman to throw a party and to invite all her friends to come and join the party. And what about that one lost sheep? Does it know it's lost? Well, from my own experience of sheep herding with my dogs, I can tell you, sheep have no idea when they have strayed. The sheep just nibbles, and suddenly it is separated from the herd and it is separated from safety. So the shepherd's ecstatic when the sheep is found. Now, one of the great things about the stories that Jesus tells us is that we can put ourselves inside anywhere we want in these parables. But how often do we put ourselves in the story as the one who searches? The one who is so overcome with joy in finding something lost that they throw a party. Because it's not just enough to celebrate by yourself. You have got to invite every other person in. And that's the image that I want you to hold on to today. The image of a party where everyone is invited to celebrate. Y'all, I have given my life to this celebration and to this invitation to the party. And yet we are surrounded by party poopers. It is not enough that they don't want to party. They want to filter that party list. And in doing so, what they actually do is throw cold water on Jesus the host. And that breaks my heart. Worse, it breaks the heart of God. Early this week, there was an article about a very prominent leader of a Christian university who's been faced with some pictures that are at odds with what he preaches. There was the usual back and forth on Facebook, and this was one reply to that story. Someone wrote, "I saw this today. Why does it not surprise me? I'm constantly reminded of Gandhi, who said, 'I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ.' Never more true today." Well, I could not help but reply. I had to, and I wrote, "Not all of us who follow Jesus are like that," and then in capital letters, bold, I said, "at all." And then I got another response. You are absolutely correct, of course. But unfortunately, it seems that at this particular time in our history, the voices professing to be Christian that are the loudest are also the least Christ-like. I'm grateful that there are still faith-based voices such as yours, which preach messages of compassion, inclusion, of love. Now, of course, that's not just about me. That's about you. It's about all of us who represent Jesus in the world. Do you see why it is so urgent for us to be so public about faith in action, to be so public about love in action? Now go back and look at the beginning of the gospel story. It begins with these words. All the tax collectors and sinners were coming close to listen to Jesus. There's no filter on that guest list. All were invited, sinners and non-sinners. And today that would include any erring university leaders. And by the way, the term sinners in the gospel means whatever it was that they had done was well known in the public. It was not some hidden sin. They were not asked to get their act together before seeing Jesus. And maybe, just maybe, that's why they were so drawn to come and listen to him. They were accepted for who they were at just that moment. Loved for who they were at that moment, not what they might become later. Now that's the love of a searcher. The one who sees each one of us just where we are and loves us into the closer presence of God. The one who throws a party when he finds us. And in these particular parables, there is no call for a response. It's just a story of finding. And in that finding, celebration. We don't see the coin putting on a party hat going, woohoo, I was found. I don't know if the sheep were partying or not. I think not. You see, I think the response comes later when you find out you are the guest of honor. You are the one for whom the surprise party is being held. Now, one of my favorite iconoclasts is the Reverend Dr. Tony Campolo. If you don't know him, he's a sociologist and he's a Baptist preacher. And he put this in context best for me in a story he tells of an adventure he had late one night in Honolulu. And these are Tony's words. He said, I found a little place that was still open. It was about 3 a.m. I went in, took a seat at one of the stools at the counter, and waited to be served. This was one of those sleazy places that deserves the name Greasy Spoon. I didn't even touch the menu. I was afraid that if I opened it, something gruesome would crawl out. But it was the only place I could find. The guy behind the counter came over and asked me, what do you want? What a gracious invitation. What do you want? I said I wanted a cup of coffee and a donut. And as I sat there munching on my donut and sipping my coffee at 3:30 in the morning, the door of the diner suddenly opened, and to my discomfort, in marched 8 or 9 provocative and boisterous prostitutes. It was a small place, and they sat on either side of me. Their talk was loud and crude. I felt completely out of place, and I was just about to make my getaway when I overheard the woman beside me saying, tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 39. Her friend responded in a nasty tone. So what do you want from me? A birthday party? What do you want? You want me to get a cake and sing happy birthday? Come on, said the woman next to me. Why do you have to be so mean? I was just telling you, that's all. Why do you have to put me down? I was just telling you it's my birthday. I don't want anything from you. I mean, why should you give me a birthday party? I've never had a birthday party in my whole life. Why should I have one now? Tony says, when I heard that, I made a decision. I sat and waited until the women had left. Then I called the guy behind the counter over and I asked him, do they come in here every night? Yeah, he answered. The one right next to me, does she come in every night? Yeah, he said. That's Agnes. Yeah, she comes in here every night. Why do you want to know? Well, because I heard her say that tomorrow is her birthday, I told her. What do you say that you and I do something about that? What do you think about us throwing a birthday party for her right here tomorrow night? Tony says a cute smile slowly crushed his chubby cheeks. And he answered with measured delight, that's great, I like it, that's a great idea. And calling to his wife who did the cooking in the back room, he shouted, hey, come out here, this guy has a great idea. Tomorrow's Agnes's birthday. This guy wants us to go in with him and throw a party for her right here tomorrow night. His wife came out of the back room all bright and smiling. She said, that's wonderful, that's just wonderful. You know, Agnes was one of those people who's really nice and kind, and nobody does anything nice and kind for her. Tony said, look, if it's okay with you, I'll get back here tomorrow morning about 2:30 and I'll decorate the place. I'll even get a birthday cake. No way, said Harry, the guy with the chubby cheeks. That was his name, not chubby cheeks, Harry. No way, the birthday cake's my thing, I'll make the cake. So at 2:30 the next morning, I was back in the diner. I picked up some crepe paper decorations at the store and had a sign made out of big pieces of cardboard that read, Happy Birthday, Agnes. And the woman who did the cooking must have gotten the word out to everyone on the street, because by 3:15, every prostitute in Honolulu was in the place. It was wall-to-wall prostitutes and me. After 3:30 on the dot, the door of the diner swung open, and in came Agnes and her friend. And when they came in, we all screamed, "Happy birthday!" Tony says, "Never have I seen a person so flabbergasted, so stunned, so shaken." Her mouth fell open. Her girlfriend grabbed her arm to steady her. And as she was led to sit on one of the stools around the counter, we all sang happy birthday to her. And as we came to the end of our singing, "Happy birthday, dear Agnes, happy birthday to you," her eyes began to moisten. And then when the birthday cake came out with all the candles being carried by Harry of the chubby cheeks, she lost it completely and openly cried. Agnes looked down at the cake. Then, without taking her eyes off it, she slowly and softly said, "Look, Harry, if it's all right with you, if it's okay if I kind of, what I want to ask you is it okay if I keep this cake for a little while? Is it okay if we don't eat it right away?" Harry shrugged and said, "Sure, it's okay. If you want to keep the cake, keep the cake. Take it home if you want to." "Can I?" she asked. And then she looked at Tony and she said, "I just live down the street a couple of doors. I want to take the cake home, okay? And I'll be right back. Honest." Agnes got up off the stool, picked up the cake, and she carried it like the Holy Grail. And she walked slowly toward the door. And we all just stood there motionless as she left. When the door closed, there was a stunned silence in the place. Not knowing what else to say, Tony broke the silence by saying, "What do you say we pray?" Now, looking back on it now, Tony says it seems more than strange for a sociologist to be leading a prayer meeting with a bunch of prostitutes in a diner in Honolulu at 3:30 in the morning. But it just then, felt like the right thing to do. I prayed for Agnes. I prayed for her salvation. I prayed that her life would be changed and that God would be good to her. When I finished, Harry leaned over the counter with a trace of hostility in his voice. He said, "Hey, you never told me you were a preacher. What kind of church do you belong to?" And in one of those moments when just the right words came, I answered, "I belong to a church that throws birthday parties for whores at 3:30 in the morning." Harry waited a moment and then almost sneered as he answered, "No, you don't. No, you don't. There's no church like that. If there was, I'd join it. I'd join a church like that." Tony says, wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all like to join a church that throws birthday parties for whores at 3:30 in the morning? Well, beloved, that's the kind of church that Jesus came to create. And to that I say, Amen.